If I had a chalkboard, that would be good for this, or a whiteboard would be good. Do teacher motif. Don't have that. Um, Definitely wouldn't want to have to haul a chalkboard in here. Nope. Um, so, um, Digimon. So this one is another one of the Allies videos. This is going to be about Nami Asaji, who is the homeroom teacher for Takato, Jerry, Kazu, and Kenta. She works at Yobabashi Elementary School, and she is the teacher for class 5-2. So she teaches the fifth graders, kind of second one, because there's 5-1, 5-2, 5-3. It's the way that they organize classes in Japan. America doesn't quite organize them that way, but yeah, that type of stuff. I mentioned back when I first started a bunch of these Digimon Tamers videos, when I was talking about Takato and some of the others, I mentioned stuff where they interact with their teacher a lot, and how she's actually a rather significant part of the series in regards to like how she views the children and how the children view her and stuff. And I'm pointing this out now. Also, the reason why I'm wearing my Anjulmon t-shirt is, of course, Mrs. Asaji's voice actress. I'm going to go back and forth between calling her Miss Asaji and Nami Asaji, depending on stuff. Her English voice actress is Laura Jill Miller, who is, of course, the voice actress for Kari Kamiya from, Adventures and Adventures 2.0 and subsequent stuff where Kari has shown up. She is the voice actor, and it's kind of a joke that she's voicing her is because, of course, back at the end of Digimon Adventures 2, in like the last 2 episodes when they're dealing with Malamyotismon in the A Million Points of Light episode and such, where they're talking to all of the Dark Spore kids about their dreams, and Kari says she wants to be a teacher. And at the end of the series, when we get like the epilogue, we do see that Kari has become a teacher. So this is kind of an inside joke on that, because Miller is, of course, Kari's voice actor, and, they just did that. It was just like, well, we have a teacher that's a decent-sized chunk in this story. Let's bring in Kari's voice actress because of reasons and have her voice her. Okay. She gets some really good lines, actually. So we have that relationship, or that kind of inside joke. And I don't know if that was something that I caught as a kid. That, like, when I first watched Digimon Tamers as a kid, I'm like, hey, the teacher sounds like Kari. Oh, well, maybe it's Kari. I don't know. And I guess this is a headcanon I came up with, in the fact that, so I'm going slightly off topic here, but it still remains in the Digimon world, is, so the kids that are in Tamers, they grow up watching like Ty and his group, and Ty and Davis and their groups and stuff. And so that means that Digimon in that world, those 2 first seasons were like a TV series that was on in Japan as a way to promote like the card game that they all play. And that they would end up trying to play and everything like that. Because like we get references and stuff like that. It might be a little more heavily hinted at in the English dub, but I think it's there in the Japanese dub too. And, so that implies that at some point in time, they would have had to they would have had to have, voice actors or an actress come in and play the different, play Kari in those series, depending on how it worked. Like if it was a live action series and then like they watched that, or like Power Rangers, or if it was like, an animated series that, like Takato and his, generation watched, and then like, maybe the girl that played Kari in those, that voiced her in those 2 seasons, like she didn't end up doing voice acting after that, but she went off and actually became a teacher. And, and then she ends up teaching, Takato's class, because like maybe she used like a different name when she was acting, or something along those lines, so her students don't actually know that she's, the voice actress for Kari, and then she just hides kind of that she knows kind of what Digimon are when like Takato starts talking about them. Or she's just like, oh god, those series are still around that I did when I was younger. Like, I don't know, just in universe canon, just a head canon type thing that I have for that. But back into the actual talking about Miss Asaji. And so she's about 26 years old, and she is a teacher, but she doesn't particularly like her job all too much. In the Japanese version, she works as a teacher because it makes her look good to the community, because that is something in Japanese society where you want to look good for your community and for your family, and teaching the next generation is a good way of doing that. So there are some comparisons there. In my opinion, no matter what the community is, teachers do not get nearly the amount of respect that they deserve. They do not get nearly the amount of respect or recognition or pay that they deserve. Not at all. Just so much more. Side note on that, here in Lincoln, we are going to be having a new high school be built. And it is going to be named after the teacher that was my kindergarten and first grade teacher when I was in elementary school. And I mean, like, that was announced several years ago, and I just find that so great. I'm just like, yes, she deserves it, because she was a teacher for so long. Back to this. So she's not exceedingly front and center throughout the entire series. She kind of pops up a bit. We get her introduced to her in like the first episode when, of course, Takato arrives late to class, and she's the one that ends up like sending him into the hallway, because he's late, and she's not putting up with Takato's BS. She's just like so used to him showing up late. She's just like, still, she's, at the chalkboard writing out the lesson for today. Go wait in the hallway, Takato. And that's where he ends up drawing, what ends up becoming the basis for Gilmon is, so she's kind of like the antithesis for that. She's like the catalyst for that a little bit. And, the Takato and his friends tend to stretch her patience pretty thin. Unfortunately, Jerry probably not so much, but definitely Kazu and Kenta as well, along with some of the other students in the class. But she does care about her students. That is very much shown throughout the course of the series. She may not necessarily particularly always like her job as a teacher, but she cares about her students a lot. Which is always something that I thought was exceedingly important for teachers, is for them to care about their students above all else. Care about their well-being and their mental health and all of that type of stuff. And what ends up happening is we see her throughout the course of the series. She has I'm going to go through some of the other teachers. There's like the principal and then like another teacher that I'm going to talk about a little bit in this video, but not too much. And then there's like one of the other homeroom teachers that we see as well. But throughout the course of the series, like, she's there. She's actually kind of part of the episode where they have to fight against the Tiger Deva. Dang. Oh god, when I get to that Deva video or I have to go through all of them, I'm just gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna have fun with these names because I don't remember all of them. Takato actually ends up interacting with her in the park because Itmon, throughout the course of the beginning of the series, has been causing a lot of problems in the park. He's attacking different couples and stuff like that. And one of the other, she has to end up going to the park and everything, and she ends up seeing Takato there because, like, he kind of ends up getting harassed, well, not harassed by a policeman, but questioned by a policeman who's there. And she's like, no, he's my student. I know him. He wouldn't do that. And, like, they're just talking, and Takato ends up, she, like, gives Takato some advice, and then, like, he has to rush off and go find Gilmon. And then she kind of almost gets attacked by, I think it's one of the other Digimon, but, like, she ends up, Takato and the others save her, but she doesn't know that it's them. And then later on, when they go on a camping trip, like a school camping trip, which I'm just like, my school never did that, and even if they did, I don't know if I would go because camping has never interested me. I've gone kind of camping-ish type stuff with my church, but we were still indoors. In my youth group for church. But like Japanese schools are obviously run a little bit different than, American schools, obviously. But like, so she's part of that, and like Takato ends up trying to distract her when they're trying to get Gilmon on the bus. He like distracts her with his camera by trying to get her to figure out how to make it work. And like, that's just funny. And then later on, she has to end up dealing with one of the other teachers, who is Mr. Mori, and she grows very annoyed with him very quickly. He has a crush on her, obviously, but she is just not putting up with any of his BS. And so she like works on keeping the kids in order and everything like that on the camping trip. And she seems to be a smart enough person that she probably figures out that like Takato and the others are probably doing some of the things they're not supposed to, but as long as they're safe, she's not super concerned. And while they're on the camping trip, at one point in time, she ends up in her bikini. No, it's not a bikini. It's just a swimsuit, and Mr. Mori is being creepy and wanting to put suntan lotion on her, which I'm just like, okay, dude, back off. Mr. Mori is also kind of a scaredy cat, which is just kind of funny. She's, when it comes to all the couples in the park, she knows that Takato is definitely not the one scaring them and everything. And then kind of one of the bigger interactions that we get with her is, she ends up, when Takato and the others decide that they're going to go to the digital world to go rescue Calamon, what ends up happening is, they all kind of start acting up in class, and she's like, oh no, it's a mutiny, and she like sends them into the hallway to wait. And then like after school, she has them write out, like during detention, they're supposed to write out stuff like in their notebooks, and all of them end up, all four of them, Takato, Jerry, Kazu, and Kenta, end up writing out like a note within their diary type things, journals type things that they have. I don't know exactly how this works in Japan. I don't know if this is stuff that they do in all the schools, or if it's only certain ones, or I don't know. But ends up writing them out notes, and she's just like, oh god, I'm, after they're all sent off, she ends up like reading them, and she like, it's just like, Mrs. Asaji, I'm sorry, thank you for being such a good teacher. I'm sorry I was annoying at times, blah, 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 blah. We have to go to save one of our friends, and we won't be back for a while. Don't worry, we're going to tell our parents, blah, 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 blah. And she like reads that, and she's just like, it's from all four of them, and she's just like, what in the world? And she like rushes out of the school and finds them, and like they're meeting up with Henry to leave, and she's just like, what in the world are you doing? This is dangerous. You're gonna get hurt. You guys don't know what you're doing.
Is this supposed to be funny? How do you think this makes me feel? You're my responsibility. And those creatures could be dangerous. They could have rabies. And who will take care of you, for goodness sake? You're only kids. You can't even get through PE without getting hurt.
And, it's just like that type of this very visceral reaction that we get from her. Although I do see in my notes here, it says, however, in the Japanese version, in accordance with her personality there, she is more concerned with how allowing them to go off into a dangerous other world would reflect on her. They kind of do that sometimes in the English and the Japanese. Well, they'll make like English go a certain way and the Japanese go a certain way depending on stuff. They'll do this sometimes also with other Digimon, where they change like their voice actors a little bit and make them more female for some or more male for others, or things along those lines. They don't do it too much, but they do it occasionally, where they'll shift some of the different personalities a bit. In the English dub, she's very much concerned about the children's safety. In the Japanese dub, she's much more concerned about how it reflects on her as a teacher and as an adult. So there's that brought into there. And she's, they're just like, don't worry, Mrs. Asaji, we'll be safe and we'll come back and we'll be okay. But we have to go save our friend. And she's just like befuddled by this. And then we don't know a huge amount of what happens while they're gone in regards to what's going on with Mrs. Asaji. It's assumed that she probably just keeps teaching the rest of the class. And like Takato and the others' parents probably said something to the school. I mean, like we know that like Takato up and just shows Gilmon to his parents and all of that stuff, and they kind of end up being okay with, well, okay is a strong word. They can't really stop him. And such, but we know that I'm deducing from what we've heard of her so far in the English dub, at the very least, she's probably very concerned about them the entire time. We do know that when the D Reaper starts showing up, that part of the school ends up being very close to where it shows up or where it gets spread to. So we know that like her and the rest of their class end up getting moved to somewhere else because during one of the battles with the D Reaper, when Hypnos is able to hack into like the signal that like the Digimon's data is giving off, they're able to communicate with the kids inside of them, as in while the kids are merged with biomerged with their Digimon and such, and they're able to communicate with Takato, and that actually ends up getting broadcast on like TVs, at the very least within a certain range. And we see Mrs. Asaji and the rest of their class there watching this video, watching this feed that has like popped up on their TV in their classroom, which is not at the school anymore. It's somewhere else. And such. I mean, like, the same thing, similar things happened with like the pandemic here, is that like, they, move the classes as best they can. They're still teaching from home and everything like that. Although they're not teaching from home, they're probably teaching like somewhere else that's further away. So that way the kids can keep getting educated. So that's just not put on hold because of the giant gelatinous red heat producing blob that has appeared in the middle of the city. And we see her, and it's just broadcast on the TV, and she knows, of course, that it's Takato that she's looking at, because she's known Takato long enough. Plus, I think like he says his name, or someone says his name or whatever, and like the rest of the class is seeing this as well. And a good chunk of the class was like aware of like Gilmon and Terriermon and the other Digimon. They were aware of them because like Takato had introduced them to them and such. And like, Gilmon went on the camping trip and all that type of stuff. But side note before I finish up this, when they do go on the camping trip, there's a joke made that Mrs. Asaji, like, she gets like car sick or whatever, or she just like, she takes like an aspirin, probably like some form of like Valium or something like that, and just makes her like fall asleep, and she's like asleep the entire time on the bus ride there. Which I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you for doing that. But when this happens, when like the images of Takato and the others get broadcasted and they're able to see what's going on a little bit with like the Digimon, she actually like runs out of the school, and like the rest of the class run out with her, and they all run out into like the the outside area, and they just start cheering on Takato and the others. And it's like they can't hear them, they're not communicating with them, but it's just like, you can do it, Takato, you can keep going, you can do this, you can defeat the monster thing, we know you can, type of thing. So I like how she's like leading the class in that. And kind of the last note that we get on her is after everything's, the D Reaper is defeated and the Digimon have to go back to the digital world, unfortunately, and, eventually they come back, obviously, but we know that she, of course, continues to teach, and she's, still teaching Takato's class for however much longer, because I don't remember if we get an exact answer as to, like, when this takes place in the school year, because I don't think we ever really get any major holidays, as far as I'm aware, throughout the course of the series. It's not like we get Christmas like we see in Digimon Adventures 2.0. But so, so she continued with that. Probably ended up having, like, a sit-down with Takato at some point in time, and Takato and Jerry and Kazu and Kenten being like, and like Henry, because he goes to the same school. Rika is actually the only one out of the main group that doesn't go to the same school as them, because she goes to private school. And she's just like, okay, we're going to talk about a few things. The next time you need to go off into a digital dimension, please do not bring the giant blob thing with you when you return. Second of all, I'm very proud of all of you. So I love Mrs. Asaji. I just always liked her as a teacher. And I mean, like, I would have been her as a teacher, or just like, actually, no, I probably wouldn't have been her as a teacher because I do not have the temperament to be a teacher by any means. Or at least not a temperament to be a teacher with that many children. Um, God, no. Um, but like, thank God for the teachers that do. Um, I was trying to think. I don't think I have any teachers in my family. No, I don't think so. Um, Two other ones I did want to point out here in regards to other people that we see interact at the school. So we have the principal, who is Seiji Kurosawa, who is the principal of the uh, Yodobashi Elementary School, and uh, he ends up the main interaction that we get with him is in like one of the first 2-3 episodes or so, where like Takato had to like hide Gilmon before he went to school, and Gilmon ends up actually, he eats all the bread that Takato gave him, and then he goes to the school, and he's like hiding inside of the box that like Takato put him in, and like Gilmon gets into the box, and he ends up in the school because he's following Takato's scent, because Gilmon has a very, very good sense of smell, and he follows Takato's scent into the school, and he's like roaming around in the box in the school. And one point in time, he like scares one of the other teachers, which is just funny. But then he runs into the principal, and the principal's like, "What are you doing, Gilman? I am in a box." Well, I'm the principal, and I said get out of the box. No, Takatomon said stay in the box, and like the principal's like trying to get the box off of him, and this is like a pretty dang decent sized box. And the principal's just trying to get this off of Gilmon because he does not know that it's a giant lizard dragon that's underneath the box. And he's like, well, I'm the principal and you're going to listen to me. He gets it off the box and he just like gets the box off and he's just looking at Gilmon like, he's just like freaking out and he like runs off. I mean, as the audience, it's just like, we know that Gilmon's not going to hurt you unless like you do something to like attack him or hurt someone that he cares about, like Takato or one of his friends or something like that. Gilmon's fairly harmless unless you like make him angry or something like that. He's a little bit like Bruce Banner in that, but I was gonna say Bruce Banner himself can actually be quite dangerous without even getting the Hulk involved in that regard. But Gilmon, particularly at that point in time where he's like very, very like a baby to a degree at that point in time, he's very harmless. But like the principal does not know that. He's just like dragon lizard thing that can talk and is in my school, and like he runs off. And like he calls the police or something like that, or school security or whatever. And like I feel somewhat sorry for the principal because like that happens, and then later on we know that like Calamon keeps breaking into like the sports equipment area and drawing like the chalk crop circles all over the soccer field, and like the principal has to keep dealing with all of that, and like the coaches have to deal with that. It's like I'm sorry, dude. And then the last teacher I did want to point out is Toshiaki Mori, who is, of course, the homeroom teacher for class 1-5, which is, I believe, Henry's class. He's the one that has the crush on Mrs. Asaji, and she does not return it at all. She thinks he's, just like, I think she just somewhat thinks he's pathetic at various points in time. I know that he gets scared multiple times. I think he's one that, like, Gilmon scares at some point, and then I know that, like, when they're on the camping trip, like, Kazu and Kenta end up, like, freaking him out at some point in time. But, he keeps trying to flirt with Mrs. Asaji, and it does not go anywhere. That was about it. The main one I did want to talk about was Mrs. Asaji. And we actually see that, like, Takato and his class and his friends end up having a fair amount of respect for her. Because, like, they're sorry that they have to leave. But, I mean, like, they have to go and save Calamon. but they're also like, Mrs. Asaji has, always done her best to teach us and everything like that. And she deserves to at least kind of know where we're going and why we're having to leave. Um, and, so I always kind of thought of that, just like that, they're like, they respect her enough as a teacher and as a guardian, and the fact that she is kind of like one of the adults that is in charge of taking care of them, that they they respect her opinion in that regard. And we see that Takato respects her opinion several times throughout the course of the series, um, and such. And had but if she ends up finding out like what Jerry had to go through, I have no surprise, and I would be not surprised at all if like one of the first times she saw them again, if she just like hugged all four of them, if Mrs. Haji just hugged all, Takato, Kazu, Kenta, and Jerry, just throw Henry in there as well. Just like hug them. I wouldn't have been surprised if she did that at some point in time, when she like saw them again after everything that happened with the Digimon. And given what I said earlier about like my own headcanon that like maybe she was like Kari's voice actress when she was younger or something like that, like she used that, to get money to get through college and everything and then become a teacher, that it like if that is the case where it's just like headcanon that I have, then that means that like she was part of this, and the fact that like her being this voice actress ended up influencing. I don't think in the actual Japanese that she's voiced by the same lady that voiced Kari in the Japanese dub, but like within this world, I'm just going with this, and that like she like ends up figuring out that like those shows that I made that I was a part of when I was a kid, where I was a voice actor or whatever, a teenager or whatever, those are the shows that they're talking about. Those are the Digimon. Those are where all of this came from. And I was a part of that to a degree. Depending on how much of a constitution she has, how strong her constitution is, that could cause a little bit of like a, oh my god, and mind, a mind F going on there. Just like, oh my god, am I a part of this? What did I do? But like, I don't know, that's just like weird headcanon that like she was like the actress that played Cory or something like that. Like in that regard, like I just headcanon that I have. I know that's not the case or whatever, or maybe it is to some other people out there. I can't be the only one that had that thought, but that's what I have for this one. I was trying to remember what other Digimon ones that I still have to do. I still have to do the card video where I talk about all the different cards that they use throughout the course of the series. And of course, I still have to do like where I talk about like the Devas and then like the D Reaper itself. And the Devas will probably get like, 3 or 4 videos, give or take, how I like group them together. Some of them got like paired together, or some of them we don't see that much of, so I'll just pair them with a different Deva. But at the moment of recording this, I don't remember if I've done a video where I talk about the different sovereigns. I know I talked about like the creation of the digital world for Tamers, but I don't remember off the top of my head if I've talked about the sovereigns yet. I don't think so. So I'll probably do a video about them. And then I was trying to remember if there was any other like Digimon allies that they have. Like, kind of want to talk about Gigimon and Babamon, which I might just do anyway because I loved them so much as a couple. And just as like their gimmick, so I might do a video where I talk about them. But I'm also going to do a video where I talk about like all the different Digimon that are the ones that spawn, that are the wild ones that show up. So I will end up doing some videos about those. So those are kind of like what's in the works right now for some of the Digimon videos. So I thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice rest of your day. And please, please, please be respectful to the teachers that actually care about their students. Please thank teachers that you had. If you had very amazing teachers that were a very big influence on you. So that's what I have. I thank you very much. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye.